Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for April 20th to April 26, 2014. Human design is a synthesis of four ancient wisdom systems as a bridge to understanding our potential to discover our path and making decisions that are correct for us as individuals. And those traditions are astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life. So let's look at how these systems work together in human design. Well, we start by looking at the position of the sun, the planets, the nodes in the wheel, much like we would in astrology. But instead of looking at them in relationship to zodiological constellations or to each other by the angles that they make, we look at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching. And then those locations, those hexagrams are mapped to specific locations in the body graph, which we have right here. And on April 20th, we have the sun, and it's in just the beginning of Taurus, but it's in the third hexagram, and we can see all the way out here on the edge the third hexagram, and they're numbered from bottom to top. And the third hexagram goes yang, yin, 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 yang, yin. The shapes inside the body graph are called centers, and they represent the next stage in the evolution of humans from having 7 chakras to now having 9 centers. The pathways between the centers are called channels and are from the Kabbalah. These black strips of paper on this diagram represent the gates that are being activated by the sun, the planets, and the nodes, regardless of whether they form a channel. I'm not going to be following the moon in this demonstration. It moves very, very fast and activates 3 to 4 gates in a day, which would turn this presentation into a several-hour experience. And being a 5-1 profile, I just don't feel that would be practical. So we start out the week with the sun in the third hexagram, and that's mapped to an energy channel called an opening in an energy channel that's called a gate, which we have right here. And this is the third gate is the gate of ordering, difficulty at the beginning. The fundamental challenge of initiation is to transcend confusion and establish order. It's located in on the sacral center here as an individual energy path in the knowing circuit called the channel of mutation, a design of energy which initiates and fluctuates, a pulse, and connects down to the 60th gate of acceptance, limitation. And I found human design to be so amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. So we have the following activated gates on the 20th. We have the sun and the south node in the third gate. We have the earth and the north node in the 50th gate. Mercury is in the 42nd gate. Venus is up here in the 63rd gate. Mars is retrograde and in the 48th gate. Jupiter in the 39th gate. Saturn is in the 43rd gate and also retrograde. Uranus is in the 21st gate. Neptune is in the 37th. And Pluto, just newly retrograde, is here in the 38th. Obviously, not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com, clicking on the button that says Get Your Free Rave Chart, and entering your birth information. Now, I want to be clear that the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. So no matter what the weather is, an individual strategy and authority is the correct choice for having an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra said, Whatever the weather's going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And we're going to be looking at the sun's line values daily because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come through the sun. And as Ra-Uru, who said in Design Perspectives number 56 in his presentation titled Living with the Program with Ra-Uru, the lines of the day, we're talking about these daily shifts of line values. When he was talking about this, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. So let's get started. We're beginning with April 20th, and we have the sun in the third hexagram, and it's in the fourth line up here in the upper trigram. And this is called charisma, innate quality which attracts valued guidance. Exalted, it's physic attunement that magnetizes nurturing. A psychic energy which attracts nourishment and ensues ordering. Detrimented, where demands of the ego lead to rejection. Confused energy that needs nourishment but is generally rejected. And fourth line days are really where there's a shift, because before that, the first, second, and third line days are really about an inward perspective, and on the fourth line energy, it shifts to looking more outward. The themes of the fourth line are friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interactions. People are more open to networking and being friendly and social. And then later on the 20th, the sun then moves up into the fifth line, the line of the heretic, again of the third hexagram. And this shift happens at 2:59 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All the times I'm going to be giving you are going to be Eastern Daylight Time, so you're going to want to convert them to your local time zone so that you have accurate information. The sun in the 3-5 is described as victimization, when actions designed to overcome confusion alienate others. Exalted, the courage to stand by one's conviction, the unique energy of individuality to withstand confusion. Detrimented, where victimization leads to appeasement and suffering. Confused energy which is dominated by the ordering power of others. And fifth line days are heretical. This is the heretic energy. So it's a day where there's suspicion. It's also a day of universalization, where something can leak out and spread very rapidly like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video that suddenly gets millions of viewings or a Facebook post that goes viral. But there's also a great deal of suspicion and paranoia on a fifth line day, which impacts the nature of relationships. Also, projection and seduction are themes of a fifth line day. On the 21st, the sun moves into the sixth line, into the line of the role model, again in the third hexagram, and this occurs at 2:02 a.m. again Eastern Daylight Time. The sun's exalted in the third hexagram in the sixth line, which is called surrender. It's the ultimate maturity to recognize when struggle is futile. Exalted, as life sustains, so life goes on. The innate acceptance that ordering is a process, not a problem. Sixth line days, you think about it, we're up here, we're on the roof of the hexagram. It tends to be looking beyond, so we don't really want to get our heads stuck in the clouds, because you might end up bumping into something with your kneecaps or anywhere else. It's a day where there's kind of be a lack of focus on what's going around you. Folks might be looking beyond their immediate environment. And like third line days, there's certain dangers of just not seeing a car coming or a bill coming or something like that. And then also on the 21st, Mercury moves out of the 42nd hexagram and moves into the 3, where it's joining the Sun and the South Node. Mercury's the messenger of the gods. It's about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, but not just as words, but Ra actually talked about that it's also as music. What do you need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. What needs to be communicated in the third hexagram? A difficulty in the beginning. This is the gate of ordering. Difficulty in the beginning. The fundamental challenge of initiation is to transcend confusion and establish order. And Mercury's detrimented in the third hexagram in the first line, which is called synthesis. Difficulties can only be overcome when all pertinent factors have been analyzed. The detriment is the reliance on intellect at the expense of intuition can lead to unnecessary frustration. The ability to know that order will emerge and the drive to find this knowing elsewhere. Also on the 21st, Venus changes gates, and it moves out of the 63 and into the 22. Way over here. Oh, let's find one that's stickier than that. Into the 22. And so Venus in human design is very powerful, and Ra talks about it being a deeply misunderstood, in that it brings morality or natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you at a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell you about a moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. And Ra talked about that. If you don't work with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. In the 22, Venus is about in the gate of openness, grace, a quality of behavior best suited for handling mundane and trivial situations. Venus in the 22-1 is the second class ticket. Exalted, it's the ability to accept and enjoy a subordinate position, the emotional awareness to enjoy a subordinate position. Detriment, it's the inevitable humiliation that comes with claiming a first-class seat with a second-class ticket, where the emotional energy challenges the awareness and can result in humiliation socially. On the 22nd, the sun moves out of the third hexagram and into the 27th hexagram. So, which puts it here. And of course, whenever the sun is moving, so is the Earth, and the Earth moves from the 50 to the 28. And so we've got these definitions, which then define the following centers: a root center, a sacral center, and a splenic center. So anyway, we got the sun in the 27th. The Earth is in the 28th gate of the game player, the preponderance of the great. This shift happens at 1:06 a.m. again Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 27th gate of caring, nourishment, the enhancement of the quality and substance of all activities through caring. The sun's exalted in the 27-1, so we're in the first line, the investigator line of selfishness. Exalted, the ego-driven first law of caring for oneself, which is not necessarily at the expense of others. The power to care for oneself first. So now we're in the lower trigram here, in the first line. And so the first, second, and third lines are really where people are more turned inward. They're absorbed with their own process. The theme of the first line is fear or anxiety, a fear that needs to be investigated. So first line energy is good for studying, not great for acting. It's a day to look into things, maybe not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things that you don't understand or can't make sense of or don't know. And then with the Earth in the 28 and Pluto in the 38, we have the channel of struggle, which will be affecting us until April 27th. And this brings experiences where people struggle against overwhelming odds. It's through this archetypal hero's journey of fighting for our purpose that empowers others to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning for them. This is about empowerment that comes from being who we're meant to be instead of following the conditioning of our family, schools, religions, governments. It's said to be deaf so we don't necessarily hear the other and become distracted from our authentic path. And then the sun in the 27 connected with the north node in the 50, we have the channel of preservation, which will also be affecting us until April 27th. The conditioning aspect of this channel, for those of us who do not have this as part of our design, is to maintain or change the values of people in your community during this time period. This could be a time where folks take on much more responsibility and lose sight of themselves. People are more likely to focus on nurturing and guiding those in need, particularly children. Since we're talking about the North Node being involved in the definition of this channel, we might look at our environment to see if we observe the themes of values being established or undermined, being played out in dialogue or action, which may involve attempts to bring those who are seen as outsiders into the community. On the 23rd, the sun then moves into the second line. So it moves out of the investigator and into the line of the hermit. Again, 27th hexagram. This shift happens at just 10 minutes after midnight Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 27 too is self-sufficiency, the obvious law that to give one must have. Exalted the mother, the great nourisher, the strength to nurture and the power to care. Detrimented the child, depleted the resources of others. Weakness that can sap the strength and power of others. And second line days, everyone's kind of waiting for something, maybe waiting to be called. People get stuck in their own trip. It's not a great day to have some big social gathering because people probably just want to hang out at home and are not as enthused in going anywhere. And then later on the 23rd, the sun moves into the third line, the line of the martyr, again of the 27th. And this shift happens at 11:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is greed, the obsession with having much more than one needs. Exalted here, the psychological manifestation, the obsession and dependency on knowing what is hidden, the secret policeman, the power derived in having more than one needs, whether sexually, mentally, or materially. Detrimented, mundane, and wholly without redeeming value. Greed, a lust that inevitably cripples, the lust for power to get more than one needs. And so now we're into a third line day, and third lines we're talking about, trial and error process, bonds made and broken, so this is a good day to be careful on the roads, watch out for who's in your environment, that you don't get bumped into or hit by a door or something like that. It's a day where you might have bonds made, you might have bonds broken. Same day, you might have a bond made and broken in the same day. Third line days are about a trial and error process. Things bump into you. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business or work on the material plane. But you also have to be careful because things can go wrong. But, the things that go wrong are really here to lead us to discovery. And then the 24th, the sun moves into the fourth line of the opportunist, again, of the 27th hexagram. This shift happens at 10:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The 27-4 is described as generosity, the natural sharing of attained abundance, exalted, magnanimous, and qualitative sharing, the gift of rewarding those who are deserving, the power and strength to share generously. Detrimented, it's indiscriminate sharing, the potential loss of power and strength through indiscriminate sharing. Now, fourth line days, again, this is where we're shifting from more of a personal process in the lower trigram to a transpersonal process in the upper trigram. So, again, the fourth line is moving us from an inward perspective to the outward perspective. Again, we've got themes of friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are a better day to have that party that maybe you were planning for the second line day. This is friendly and social energy. Also on the 24th, Mercury moves out of the third hexagram and joins the Sun in the 27th. And Mercury, like I said before, it's the messenger of the god. It's about communication and what are we communicating. And Mercury, excuse me, what's communicated in the 27th is nourishment. Again, this is the gate of caring and nourishment, enhancement of the quality and substance of all activities through caring. And Mercury in the 27-1 is, again, this is selfishness, exalted, the ego-driven first law of caring for oneself, which is not necessarily at the expense of others, the power to care for oneself first. Detrimented, envy, and its attendant misfortunes, the power of selfishness that is manifested through envy. And then on the 25th, the Sun moves into the fifth line. So we're back to the line of the heretic, this time in the 27th hexagram. The shift is at 9:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 27-5 is described as the executor, the ability to distribute effectively the resources of others. Exalted, either the gifted and principled agent of distribution or the good sense and ability to find one, the power and strength to care for resources of others. Detrimented, it's a restrictive nature that hampers distribution or the seeking of advice and assistance. Weakness and the risk of loss of power, the weakness and the risk of loss of power, restricting caring. Again, fifth line days, the line of the heretic, it's suspicion, but also universalization. This is when things can go viral, when things can expand beyond perhaps what we thought they were going to be. And like I've said before, there's suspicion, there's paranoia. Although, I've often said that it's only paranoia if they're not out to get you, and oftentimes they are. But that's the nature of some of these relationships. So again, this is about projection and seduction in any of these fifth line days. Excuse me. And then on the 26th, the Sun moves into the sixth line, the line of the role model of the 27th hexagram at 8:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 27-6 is wariness, a protection against an abuse of generosity. Exalted, a practical and realistic approach to nurturing whose appropriateness is guided by the feelings and instinct. The power and strength to be realistic in one's capacity to care and nurture. Detrimented, it's a tendency to over suspiciousness, the power of suspicion in limiting expressions of caring. And like we were talking about before, the sixth line, we're at the roof of the hexagram, it's kind of looking beyond what's coming next. So again, people could be kind of caught up in looking at what's next, what's in the future, what happens next, and maybe not so much in what's happening now. So just being aware of that, you might be a little more cautious just to make sure that people are aware of you and where you are in the now, so that you don't get crashed into or bumped into or anything like that. And then also on the 26th, Mercury moves from the 27th hexagram, and it moves up into the 24th, I believe. The Ashla Center. We hope it will be there. Okay. And Mercury, again, it's about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication. And so in the 24, what are we communicating? Well, hopefully rationalized thoughts might be one of the themes, because this is the gate of rationalizing, returning, the natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. Mercury in the 24-1 is the sin of omission, transformation that requires retrogressive periods before renewal can take place. Exalted, the will to triumph, and in this case, the faith that the end justifies the means. Inspiration that demands a reassessment of past thinking before a rational concept can be established. Detrimented is self-delusion, which unnaturally justifies periods of regression. Inspiration that leads to irrational focus on what is past. And then also on the 26th, Venus moves from the 22nd hexagram to the 36th. And Venus we talked about before as being profound, deeply misunderstood. It's about morality, natural law, dealing with the consequences. What we're looking at in the 36th, Venus is in the gate of crisis, the darkening of the light. The rules of the cycle in which decline is natural, but not an enduring stage. Venus in the 36-1 is resistance. Exalted, the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition. The emotional power to handle crisis. Detrimented and over-principled resistance that rather than being selective in resistance and thus less at risk, will maintain normal patterns and incur opposition. A resistance to change that will always bring crisis. And so we still have the sun continuing moving through the 42, the 3, the 27, and the 24, which are all the gates that are being associated with the Janus Godhead, which we also continue through the quarter of initiation. So again, this is really about exploring the qualities of the mind as it relates to the form, how the personality relates to the design, being a mind in a body. During the quarter of initiation, we've covered Kali, Mitra, and Michael. So Janus is the final God's head of initiation, and is preparing us for the quarter of civilization. Janus was an ancient Roman god of beginnings and transitions, including doors, gates, passages, time, and endings. And I discussed Janus in detail 2 weeks ago, so you might want to review that video if you want more information about the final God's head of the quarter of initiation. So anyway, no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during the week, just remember that this is an experience about being a passenger riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. and let the vehicle take you where you need to go by using your strategy and authority, because every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what dramas are beckoning to distract us. We're all here giving the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. Excuse me. But just take some time to observe the play as well as act your part, by remembering that you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for April 27th. It should be available on the 26th, when we will continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube. There's all New World Birth sites at each one of those places. I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I'll also be discussing the transits of May 2014 and providing some short human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebel show on True Frequency Radio on Thursday, May 1st. The show begins at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I come on about 1:30 and it goes to 3. And it's a great show. And if you want to join us on the show, you can contact them through the chat space, and they'll call you for free anywhere on the planet. And as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me, because I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You either need to be able to call me in Maine in the USA, or connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application in our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. And I hope to connect with you either on the radio show or in a reading, or just through email contact, or in a future video. Anyway, peace everybody, and thank you for your time.